Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today we are revisiting the city of Dalton in Illinois and talking about Tiffany A. Henyard figuring out a new way to incinerate taxpayer dollars, a new crime to commit as the mayor of Dalton, and that of course is to use the money of the citizens to pay for billboards that are clearly and obviously for her re-election campaign, and of course the total lack of consequences that this superwoman, that this black woman hero mayor is going to face for this. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you all for a great 2023. We are on the cusp of 300,000 subscribers, and thank you especially to the members over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
I really genuinely appreciate your guys' support. Now, it is so hard to know where to start when I do a Tiffany A. Henyard story. We have covered the absurd things that this super mayor has done since the moment that she's took on office. And just to give you a quick recap, at one point in time during a city hall meeting, she decided to show up dressed as Nino Brown, which is a drug kingpin character played by Wesley Snipes in a movie, demanding people's money.
Nobody knows something. Don't nobody know nothing.
Here she is starting a Dalton Village board meeting dressed like the Wesley Snipes character in the movie New Jack City. Later punctuating her political points with the help of her own DJ.
Every single resident. Pay me what you owe me. Thank you, DJ.
She has locked her city council out of their offices because they disagree with her, and locked other officials, like people who monitor the spending of her as mayor, out of their office as a punishment.
And he's not alone. Others in town are sharing similar stories of alleged retaliation for not supporting this suburban mayor.
It's a regular occurrence. She uses the police force to intimidate residents.
The Dalton Park District's director said in her case, the mayor objected to a car show on park property and shut down the event.
She's targeted business owners for not supporting her. She shut down a car show that she had no authority to shut down because the car show wouldn't be moved to a property where she could personally profit off of.
WGN Investigates obtained copies of that agency's credit card statements as well. They show township taxpayers also spent money on the Vegas trip on everything from steak dinners to hotels, and $3,741 just on Henyard's round-trip flight.
And she's taken a bunch of insanely lavish vacations on the taxpayer dime, and quite literally lied directly to the face of a reporter about her salary, about this vacation, and smiled and demanded that he move on to his next question.
You make almost $300,000 between your two elected positions.
I do not. I don't know where you got that number from.
We got it from her own village and township records.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Even though all of the records of what she spent, including a $4,000 first class round trip ticket to Las Vegas, how much she spent on restaurants, are a matter of public affairs because she wants to be reimbursed for it.
You're the ones that's costing the village money. I don't have that call. All right. Okay.
Don't drag out the meeting. I made a motion.
It took 30 minutes of yelling just to agree on the order of the night's agenda. Some residents say they are fed up.
And this isn't even to mention the fact that when she doesn't lock out her fellow city councilors, her meetings are completely and utterly chaotic, ridiculous, and honestly, if you saw this many black officials having a city council meeting like this on SNL, every single writer on SNL would not only be fired, would not only be canceled, would not only be banned from all social media, but they might actually get the death penalty for being this big of racial stereotypes.
46-year-old Lavelle Redmond is close friends with Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who in September hired Redmond as a code enforcement officer without the village board's approval. Redmond served 25 years in prison for the brutal gang rape and beating of 2 young teenage girls in the 1990s.
The woman's hired a sex offender to work with children in other people's homes, and honestly, if you want to get the full breakdowns of each and every one of these scandals, go to the links in the description of this video, search my channel for her face, because I break all of that down in greater detail. The thing is, if you don't know this woman, you definitely need to know. And by the way, credit to Nate the lawyer, who actually dug up the fact that 6 years before she was elected mayor, she was actually a criminal herself, arrested for breaking into people's vehicles, and double credit to him for actually sending me over this arrest record before he made his video on it, which by the way is absolutely fantastic. But that is not even the extent of it. That is not even the extent of her criminality. It has obviously continued into her office as mayor, and for those of you who said the residents of Dalton actually voted for this, while it is true they did in fact initially elect her, they actually did vote her out in a recall campaign. However, she managed to get a court to declare that recall campaign unconstitutional, and that is the only reason she is still in office right now in this moment. However, sensing the fact that she is losing her grip over the city of Dalton, Tiffany A. Henyard, who by the way was already putting her face on billboards and flyers and everything related to Dalton, is nakedly using taxpayer funds in order to fund her re-election campaign, and she's been caught by the local news, and guess what? There's not going to be any consequences for this either.
But would you advise one of your candidates to do something like that, using taxpayer funds?
No, not using taxpayer funds.
Okay, so if you've driven one of the expressways in the south suburbs recently, you've no doubt seen one of these giant billboards. They feature the name and the face of a smiling local politician. What you may not know is the money for these billboards is coming out of taxpayers' pockets, and that's raising questions.
So I do appreciate the local Chicago Fox affiliate acting surprised, but the thing is, if you watched any one of my videos on this particular mayor, nothing about this should surprise you. In fact, we talked about the fact that she covered the entire town in billboards of her, and she's all about her own personal self-promotion over and over again on this particular channel. However, now it's campaign season, now she's up for re-election, and the fact that she's expanded this is drawing all new levels of scrutiny.
Take a drive to the south suburbs and you can't miss them. 4 giant billboards featuring Tiffany Henyard's name in large letters, along with her picture, smiling down on the thousands of cars going by on Interstate 57 and the Bishop Ford Expressway. What are they advertising? One says fresh produce, another senior services, and this one simply says we offer general assistance. There's a phone number, but you wouldn't know what it's for unless you can read in teeny tiny letters, Thornton Township Supervisor, as you're speeding by.
You know, oftentimes as people in the United States of America, we look at other countries. We look at other dictators. We look at the dictator of North Korea and all the myth making around him. The fact that this person puts posters of himself up and they have to be in everybody's households, and there are dire consequences for even disrespecting the poster, and we think, you know what? That can't happen here. We think, you know what? That's absurd. The idea that these politicians are demanding this level of worship, absolutely crazy in every possible way. But the thing is, in states across this country, and I always tell people to pay attention to their local government, these petty tyrants in the making exist. They're already in office and they're already robbing you. And by the way, Illinois, as pointed out by Nate the lawyer, actually has the most corrupt officials by the nation's conviction rate versus any other state in the union, and Tiffany A. Henyard is a perfect example of this. Fresh produce, senior citizen services, she's just carpet bombing the highway so everybody sees her face, and you wouldn't know that this was funded by the taxpayer dime unless you actually started looking into her more seriously. This is naked campaign material, through and through.
These are the billboards that have gone up along the expressways. We showed the billboards to Bert Odelson, an election attorney who's been working in Illinois politics for 50 years.
When I first looked at it, I thought, what is she running for now?
So another thing that I got to point out right here, another thing that I cannot help but notice, is that they brought in a ringer, an election attorney for 50 years in the state of Illinois. Again, one of the most publicly corrupt, actually the most publicly corrupt states in the entire union by convictions, by the numbers. And when they slide him this billboard, this guy who analyzes all the shady crap that goes on in Illinois, all the mafia related corruption, all the deep well of rot that has gone on in his state, he cannot help but crack a smile, because even this is ridiculousness on a whole other level. Even this is an absurdity that he had not yet experienced, and that's the thing about Tiffany A. Henyard. You gotta give her credit. When she goes corrupt, she goes big. She said she's a super mayor. She said she's gonna be the most over-the-top person in office in this country, and she has delivered on that, and you could tell by this guy's smile.
Odelson, who represents a political faction opposed to Henyard and Dalton, says it's clear the billboards are promoting more than township services. He says they're essentially campaign ads.
This is a blatant attempt to promote herself politically. The township should not have paid for these if they did, and I'm sure they did.
They did indeed.
Yeah, obviously, these are not just promoting services. Obviously, this is to get her name and her face out there. That's why she is prominently featured on all of these billboards. And yeah, sure, there are references to services. There's a big number to call. But clearly and obviously, Tiffany A. Henyard wants you to know that you can't do without her. She's the super mayor. She's the one who does everything. This is what her whole thing about giving the water out was all about.
A couple weeks ago, we tried to question Henyard about her detail as she went door to door in Dalton giving out water on a 100-degree day. Surrounded by police, firefighters, public works employees, and 2 videographers documenting for Dalton's Facebook page.
I want to tell the people I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I hope they post what we actually do here in the village of Dalton and stop telling lies.
I mean, think about that. She walked around to hand people water on a hot summer day. Water that in those cases, if you buy them from Walmart, you could probably get for about $5 for all of those bottles. And she brought an entire security detail with her. By the way, we've gone over the fact, and I keep forgetting how corrupt this woman was, that these police officers are making 300 plus hours in overtime over a 2 weeks period.
But when they're put on Henyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
Which is damn near impossible. And 2 camera crews for social media to show her giving out the water rather than her just doing so for the good of the people. So $4 for the citizens while she spends tens of thousands of dollars to protect herself and document herself giving that $4 to the citizen.
Bills obtained by Fox 32 under open records laws shows Thornton Township paid more than $10,000 for the vinyl signs themselves and more than $12,000 to Clear Channel Outdoor Advertising for 1 month's rental of the billboards.
I mean, come on. Did you catch that? $10,000 in order to make the signs, $12,000 per month in order to advertise them, meaning the monthly cost for this is $22,000 in a town of Dalton, where the average income for a household is $24,000. She's spending these people's hard-earned money, these people's taxpayer dollars, on advertising herself back to these people, and she's getting so close to the median income just for 1 month of her own personal campaign material. This is absurdly criminal. This is insanely corrupt. Tiffany A. Henyard should have never been let out of jail for breaking into those cars years ago, but now she should definitely go back into it because she's robbing the taxpayers blind. It's bad enough she's taking these trips to Vegas. It's bad enough that she's well overpaying the police officers in order to protect her. It's bad enough that she's extorting residents who try to hold events in the city of Dalton, but now she's just openly campaigning, putting her smiling face up everywhere and making sure the taxpayer funds that campaign.
What was your reaction when you saw him?
Well, first of all, I didn't know anything about him.
Thornton Township trustee Chris Gonzalez says the board was never consulted about the billboards, which he says needed their approval.
Kind of some of the first things that popped in my mind is, what are we doing? This isn't a big sale. We're not selling cars here. I mean, if it's informational, then it should be informational. I mean, there's so many other ways we could have spent that money that would have, directly helped people.
Now, look, if you're in the board of trustees, if you're supposed to be overseeing this, you should know where every dollar is being spent. I don't want to make excuses for this guy's failure because it is in part his failure. But like I said before, every time she gets challenged on her wasting money, she ends up threatening these people. She ends up locking them out of their offices, locking them out of the legislative chamber, and she complains that she is being asked to justify her spending.
I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
When trustees refused to pay a big block of bills this week, the mayor accused them of putting vital city services in jeopardy.
We need receipts to understand what's going on.
which of course is one of the most ridiculously absurd complaints that you could possibly have. But for whatever reason, that seems to work. That seems to put people off, and that seems to get the green light. On top of that, she of course just runs the transaction through and then leaves that balance to be paid by the members of the trustee board, by her own city council. And really, there's not a lot that they can do after that money's already out the door. What they need to do is strip her of all of her powers as mayor, essentially make her completely ineffective in order to stop her from doing this.
This isn't the first time Henyard has used taxpayer dollars to burnish her own personal image. In fact, on other occasions, she spent a lot more.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany A.
Earlier this year, Fox 32 showed you how Henyard spent tens of thousands of dollars using employees and vehicles from the township and from Dalton, where she also serves as mayor.
Now, as you can see, they have that exact same clip that I talked about where they brought all of these people in order to give out cases of water to these individuals, full security detail, a bunch of black SUVs, 2 different camera crews, and all of that. But it actually gets worse. It gets more absurd. And I don't know why I'm even pretending to be remotely surprised, because this is quite literally the most corrupt person in American politics, likely.
Two showed you how Henyard spent tens of thousands of dollars using employees and vehicles from the township and from Dalton, where she also serves as mayor, for a week-long walk to Springfield to promote her self-named cancer charity, which is yet to file required reporting.
That's right. She used taxpayer dollars in order to support a walk for her cancer charity, and of course her cancer charity is not even in compliance with the requirements in terms of filing, so anybody who is suckered into donating to that thing obviously got scammed, and nobody should be surprised by that. But of course it gets worse. You're going to see a lot of the other posters that I was talking about, and each and every one of them is a gem, and you should pause this video more than I'm going to look at them and read them over carefully.
And you can't turn your head in Dalton or Thornton Township without seeing Henyard's picture or name.
So right there in this one, you can see she's giant in this poster right here. Her name is in big letters. She rates herself 5 stars, and it's cut off by the lower third, but it says, quote, keeping my promises. This is obviously campaign material. This one also makes me laugh because, again, this is paid for by her. It says Illinois Township of the Year, and it lists her name in a different font in big bold letters, and then other people's names, because who cares about those people? Now, this one is just one of the most amazing and hilarious ones. As you can see, it says gospel, food, fun, family, and faith. So this is a religious-oriented event, but while you have the one person praying all the way on the left, with, by the way, notice the white eagle or dove above them, you can see Tiffany A. Henyard is much bigger than the person praying, and by this angle, it kind of looks like he's praying to Tiffany A. Henyard, which makes a lot of sense, because she thinks she is God's gift to humanity, if not God herself, and just amazing in every way. Also, she says she got a new police station and all of that, highlighting the new right there. Just hilarious. And here's another one where it says, congratulations on making history, Tiffany A. Henyard, Thornton Township Supervisor. Again, paid for by the taxpayer, congratulating her for winning her election. And if you're wondering about the making history, she is the first female black mayor of Dalton County. Wow, so stunning, so brave, so beautiful. Again, paid for by the taxpayer.
It's on all the government-owned vehicles, buildings, even on the rugs in the township.
So yeah, she put her name on every single vehicle, every single building. And to make matters worse, a topic that I thought I was going to avoid addressing throughout all of this year, she put her name and image on a calendar.
Where we found a Tiffany Henyard 2024 calendar featuring all the important dates to remember, including her birthday.
Now look, I know conservatives ever since Christmas have been going crazy over a particular calendar, but to me, this taxpayer-funded calendar that has her on every single image for every single month, that highlights all these different dates, including her birthday, which is one day before Juneteenth, hallowed be the holiday's name, is an absurdity that we should all be focusing on. I know you guys want to argue about whether or not certain photos in the kitchen or whatever of these right-wing e-girls is the thing that we should be doing, but this is the calendar that should be getting way more attention from all of you, in my opinion, especially since, again, it is funded by the taxpayer and it's clearly and obviously campaign material.
I would be having a fit if she was my client, telling her not to do this.
Veteran Chicago political consultant Delmer Marie Cobb says there would be nothing wrong if Henyard were using her own political funds for those promotional materials, especially the billboards.
So right here you have an election attorney who's worked with other candidates saying this would be perfectly fine if she used her own campaign funds for this or her own personal funds, but obviously you can't use the taxpayer funds. But the thing is, that's not really obvious because in the state of Illinois, in the city of Dalton, she's been doing this since the moment that she's taken office. And guess what? She hasn't faced any legal consequences for it. In fact, when she faced some political consequences for it, a recall election in which she lost, the voters voted her out of office, she ended up going to the courts and the courts sided with her on that technicality, which allowed her to still be mayor and still be robbing the taxpayers blind. And she hasn't hesitated for a moment to blow this money promoting herself.
In 2011, state lawmakers passed a law banning the practice of politicians putting their names on publicly funded signs, spurred by these tollway signs featuring former Governor Rod Blagojevich.
Now, I do think it is funny that this was such an obvious issue for the state-level politicians in the state of Illinois that they actually passed a law in 2011 after Rod Blagojevich was doing this to prevent this from happening. But of course, a gap in the law doesn't make just plastering your name everywhere specifically illegal, because why not have more corruption on the local level when all you're really doing on the national level is trying to make some kind of a statement that doesn't actually change anything too significantly, because again, the state of Illinois insanely corrupt. But obviously, it still violates state and federal campaign finance laws because, spoiler alert, you can't use or you're not supposed to be able to use taxpayer funds in order to directly promote your own political case, your own political ambitions. Now, politicians do this all the time. They'll construct something new and they'll make a big song and dance about the ribbon cutting ceremony, but this is too direct and even under our current campaign finance laws should be wholly illegal, but she's doing it anyway.
And just when you think you've seen it all, take a look at this. When the first billboard went up last summer, Thornton was misspelled as Thornton. Another sign had to be ordered, apparently at taxpayer expense.
And honestly, that is the perfect way to cap off this segment and cap off the new year. If you had any doubt, based on the fact that her picture is giant in all these billboards, based on the fact that her name is front and center, always in the largest font, that she didn't care about the citizens, well, guess what? She's misspelling the actual name of the township to which she holds office. And by the way, if you're a little bit confused, she holds office in Thornton Township and she's the mayor of Dalton at the same time. And by the way, she pulls in over $300,000 doing both positions. And yeah, that just goes to show you how little she cares about the citizens, how little she cares about the area that she represents, and how little she cares about the taxpayers because she misspelled it and charged the taxpayer for both signs. It's insanity, it's ridiculous, it's absurd. But then again, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Is Tiffany A. Henyard the most corrupt woman in American politics? Or do you think we can get even more corrupt? And let me know how you felt about 2023 and what your favorite video that I put out this year actually was. As usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. Happy New Year, till next year.